Butterfree, Lapras, Greninja. These are some of Ash's most iconic Pokemon ever, but they were all released. Over his long journey, Ash actually released a lot of Pokemon, and today, I'm gonna be exploring just who he released, when he released them, and why he released each Pokemon. But before we begin, how about a quick word from this video's sponsor, Parallel. Parallel is a free-to-play digital card game that I have been playing a ton recently. The game takes place in a sci-fi universe in the distant future amidst a major planetary crisis, where 5 different human races are currently at arms to take back the planet that they once called home. In Parallel, the characters themselves are certainly my favorite part of the game. The Paragons, or deck leaders, all have such epic designs and backstories. Meanwhile, the gameplay puts a major focus on strategy in an all-out effort to defeat your enemy and help reclaim Earth. The Parallel universe and lore is always expanding and getting richer, and I cannot recommend this game enough to you all. So, click the link in this video's description to join Parallel and come play with me. Alright, let's begin with the Mons Ash released while in Kanto. First up, we have Ash's most iconic release ever, Butterfree. By now, I think most of us know the story of Ash's Butterfree. As a Caterpie, it was Ash's first ever capture, and then it quickly evolved not once, but twice into a full-on Butterfree. Butterfree was instrumental in the development of Ash as a trainer, as it showed him how to both capture and evolve a Pokemon. But then, in the episode Bye Bye Butterfree, we learned that it was Butterfree mating season, and once it helped release the pink Butterfree from Team Rocket, the two instantly fell in love. And after this, Ash knew what would be best for Butterfree, and he decided to release it to be with his love. This was actually a very mature moment for Ash, as he obviously didn't want to give up Butterfree. What's really crazy about Ash's Butterfree is that he only had it for a grand total of 19 episodes, but this release is still incredibly iconic and memorable. I think it's mostly because it was Ash's first ever capture, and we quite literally got to see both Ash and Butterfree grow alongside one another. Luckily, we did see Ash reunite with Butterfree a few times over the years, and most recently in a short scene during the end of Pokemon Journeys. Primeape began as a mischievous Mankey who was found eating Brock's jelly-filled donuts.
These donuts are great!
It then evolved into Primeape and was later captured by Ash. But it wasn't actually used by Ash until the P1 Grand Prix Fighting Type Tournament. It's there that Primeape performed incredibly well, as it was able to take down a Machop, then a Machamp, and then finally it took down Team Rocket's Hitmonlee to ultimately win the entire tournament. It was after this that Anthony, a fighting type Pokemon specialist, offered to train Primeape. Ash figured this would be best for Primeape, and it gave him a chance to rotate some of his Kanto Pokemon. So, he agreed and he left Primeape with Anthony. But then, Ash never returned for Primeape. It's one of the few Pokemon on this list that Ash has never interacted with since its release. Raticate was a Pokemon that was owned by Ash for a very short amount of time. It was actually less than a full episode. But in the 15th episode, Battle Aboard the SS Anne, Ash battled against a gentleman's Raticate with his Butterfree. Ash and Butterfree totally controlled this battle, so much so that the gentleman called it off altogether. The gentleman was so impressed with Butterfree that he asked Ash to trade it for his Raticate. After some consideration, Ash agreed, and thus, Raticate was his. Ash used Raticate once during the episode in a battle against Team Rocket, and he actually mistaked its Pokeball for Butterfree's. But after this, Ash realized just how much he missed Butterfree, and then he ultimately traded back with the gentleman. Ash's Pidgeot began as a Pidgeotto, and in fact, it was Ash's second ever capture. And it quickly became a mainstay of Ash's original Kanto team, and was hardly ever rotated out of the main lineup. While Pidgeotto wasn't really all that great in battling, its flight helped out Ash and the team with travel, finding others, and taking down Team Rocket. Then after the Kanto League, in the episode Pallet Town Panic, Pidgeotto evolved into a Pidgeot and helped take on an opposing Fearow to defend a flock of Pidgeys and Pidgeottos. But then, after the battle, Ash figured it would be best to leave Pidgeot here to help defend the flock in case of a Fearow revenge attack. So, Ash decided to leave it behind in Pallet Town. However, after many many episodes and many years, Ash did return for Pidgeot in his very last episode, The Rainbow and the Pokemon Master. In that episode, Pidgeot made a very surprising return to free Pikachu from Team Rocket's net. And then after the battle, Pidgeot fully returned to Ash's team. I don't know if Squirtle necessarily counts here, as he is kind of an on-call Pokemon, but I'll give him a short entry here. Ash's Squirtle is the leader of the Squirtle Squad, a group of really rad Squirtles who were abandoned by their previous trainers. However, the leader took a liking to Ash and eventually joined his team. Then in the Johto region, the Squirtle Squad returned, but of course they were missing their main leader. And that's when Ash decided to let Squirtle go back to the Squirtle Squad with Officer Jenny and be part of the team full time. However, Squirtle has returned many times since to help out in the Johto League and in the Battle Frontier. Seaking is another Pokemon Ash only owned for a single episode. It was captured by Ash in the episode Hook, Line, and Stinker during the Seaking capturing contest. But per the contest rules, Ash was forced to release it at the end of the event. And we've never seen this Seaking since. Now for Lapras. Lapras debuted in the episode The Lost Lapras, where it was being abused by 3 men after it got separated from its family. Ash and Pikachu were able to ward off the men, and eventually Ash decided to capture Lapras. Lapras was Ash and the gang's predominant means of travel throughout the Orange Islands. And meanwhile, in battle, Ash didn't really use Lapras, except in the Orange League Championship against Drake. Lapras performed surprisingly well there, and he was actually able to tie Drake's Gengar. Then, after the championship win, Lapras' family reunited with Lapras. And it was here that Ash decided it would be best to part ways with Lapras and allow it to rejoin its family. However, Ash has reunited with Lapras a few times. During the Johto arc, Ash found Lapras at the Marine Pokemon Laboratory, and Ash even noticed how mature Lapras looked and how much growing it had done off screen. Ash also reunited with Lapras in Pokemon Journeys, where Lapras aided in helping a stuck Wailmer before returning back to its family. Larvitar began as an egg that Ash picked up for Professor Elm while at the Marine Pokemon Laboratory. The egg hatched nearly instantly, revealing it to be a Larvitar. It remained on Ash's team for a few episodes as he and the original gang traversed throughout Johto. That is, up until the episode Mother of All Battles, where a Tyranitar, who was later on revealed to be Larvitar's mother, debuted in the series. At first, this Tyranitar thought Ash was harming her child, and we almost got a major T-Tar rampage, but she was quickly calmed down after learning that Ash meant no harm to Larvitar. Then after fighting off some Pokemon poachers, Ash decided it would be best to leave Larvitar with its mother. Since then, Larvitar has never really returned, beyond just a few flashbacks over the years. Now when it comes to Charizard, I think we all kinda know its story. It began as the abandoned Charmander that Ash took in and saved. But then, upon evolving, Charmeleon and then subsequently Charizard stopped obeying Ash. But then, after a major life-changing experience, Ash and Charizard were finally able to see eye to eye. And because of this, the two became quite a powerful duo. But then, in the episode, Charizard's Burning Ambitions, we meet Liza, the main caretaker of the Charcific Valley. She insulted both Ash and Charizard's power, and Liza and her Charla straight up embarrassed the two. Then the next day, Ash came to the realization that he should leave Charizard here to help him grow stronger. This was an incredibly emotional moment for both Ash and Charizard alike. Ash ran out of the Charcific Valley, crying, unable to contain his emotions. This was a tough moment for Ash, as Charizard was the Pokemon that Ash had a very strong connection with, as it was the Pokemon that challenged him most so far as a trainer. Of course, we all know that Charizard returned multiple times throughout the series, most notably in the Johto League and Battle Frontier, which is where he really got the chance to show off the results of his training while at the Valley. But I also adored Charizard's epic return in the third movie. As a kid, this moment was so awesome and it made me fall in love with Zard. And it also cemented Charizard's place as Ash's best ever Fire-type Pokemon. Then in Black and White, while attending the Kanto Fair, Ash got the idea to call up Professor Oak to have him send over Charizard, where he then stuck with him till the end of the Unova anime. Now, Charizard can be found with the rest of Ash's Pokemon back at Oak's lab. Unfortunately, Ash's Aipom is a bit of a forgotten Pokemon. She first appeared back in the Advanced series when she stole Ash's hat. Then a few episodes later, she challenged Ash and Pikachu to a battle. Then, after she was defeated, Ash decided to capture Aipom. Aipom stuck with Ash during the Battle Frontier arc, and after watching May, Aipom quickly took a liking to Pokemon contests. Then after conquering the Battle Frontier, Ash set his sights for the Sinnoh region, and while Ash aimed to leave all of his Hoenn Pokemon back with Professor Oak, Aipom snuck aboard the boat and made the trip out to Sinnoh. Aipom's love for contests continued on to Sinnoh, and she was constantly found watching and admiring Dawn during her events. And then Ash even used her in a contest. But after this, it became quite clear that Aipom was not very interested in battling. And meanwhile, Dawn's Buizel was not very interested in contests. And so naturally, Zoe suggested that the two trainers trade Pokemon. Then after the trade, Dawn used Aipom in contests, and she was even able to evolve it into an Ambipom. But then after Ambipom discovered its natural talent for ping pong, it decided to stay back with O to play ping pong. And since then, we have never seen nor heard from Ambipom. So Ash's Gliscor is actually quite similar to Charizard with regards to parts of its story. In Sinnoh, it began as the Gligar that was helped by Ash and the gang, and eventually it decided to join Ash's team. However, Gligar greatly struggled with gliding through the air, as it was commonly seen crashing into various things. And thanks to some help from Gary, Gligar did evolve into a Gliscor, but he still wasn't able to traverse the skies very well. Then, a few episodes later, Ash met McCann. The Air Battle Master challenged Ash and his Gliscor to a battle, but compared to McCann's Scizor, Gliscor was totally outclassed. Then, even after some additional air training, Ash and Gliscor were still unsuccessful in their rematch battle. However, McCann was quite impressed with Gliscor's overnight improvement, so much so that he offered Gliscor additional air mastery training. Ash knew that this would greatly benefit Gliscor as a Pokemon, so he decided it would be best to leave Gliscor back with McCann. Gliscor did make his triumphant return for Ash's Sinnoh League quarterfinal match against Paul. And during that battle, we really got to see the results of Gliscor's air training, as he was incredibly elusive through the skies, and he was even able to defeat Paul's OP Drapion. And then, after the Sinnoh League, Gliscor returned full-time back to Ash and is now at Professor Oak's lab. Now it's time for Ash's Goodra. Goodra began as a Goomy in its native wetlands home. Goomy took a liking to Ash upon meeting him, and it ultimately decided it wanted to join Ash's team. Goomy quickly evolved into a Sliggoo, and then again into a Goodra. And after an epic gym battle against Clement and his Luxray, Ash and Goodra then ran into Keenan. Keenan was the main caretaker of Goodra's wetlands home. He asked Goodra to return to the wetlands to defend it against Florges. But then after a truce between Florges and Goodra, Ash decided it would be best to leave Goodra back in the wetlands, as she just seemed so much happier here. Goodra did return back to Ash's team just in time for the full 6v6 battle section of the Kalos League. But unfortunately, Goodra did not perform very well in her return. And then after the Team Flare arc, Goodra returned back to the wetlands after an emotional goodbye with Ash and the rest of the Kalos gang. Greninja is a Pokemon that certainly needs no introduction. As a Froakie, it sought out a powerful trainer that would bring out its inner potential. And so, naturally, Ash was the perfect match. Throughout Ash's journey in Kalos, Greninja's inner potential and power was always being foreshadowed. And then, in the Ninja Village, Frogadier fully evolved, and we got to witness the power of the legendary Ash-Greninja. Greninja then quickly became the strongest Pokemon, not just on Ash's Kalos team, but quite possibly in his whole arsenal. It carried Ash throughout most of the Kalos region, and even all the way up to the Kalos League Finals. Of course, he didn't win, but you know. And then once Team Flare had been defeated and Kalos had began returning back to normal, Greninja was able to sense the presence of the dangerous and powerful roots. It was after taking a few of these roots down that Zygarde asked Greninja to remain there to help sense and destroy these roots. Ash knew that leaving Greninja was what was best, not just for Greninja, but the entire Kalos region. So after a very emotional hug and goodbye, Ash and Greninja parted ways. We did of course revisit Greninja in Pokemon Journeys when Ash got the idea to go visit him in Kalos. Greninja made an epic entrance and then proceeded to destroy Ash's Lucario in battle. But after their swift battle, Greninja did offer mentorship and training to Lucario. We then got to see Greninja a few more times throughout Journeys, mostly during major battles for Lucario, where his aura powers really got pushed. While traveling through Ultra Space, Poipole emerged through a wormhole at Melee Island, where it then witnessed Ash and his classmates taking on a Buzzwole. Later on, Poipole came back to the Ultra Guardian base, and Lusamine suggested that Ash should capture it. And after some comedic throws and dodges, Ash was able to catch the baby Ultra Beast. And later on, after the Ultra Guardians had restored light back into Poipole's homeworld, it decided it wanted to stay there, and Ash agreed to it. But then, after the Alola League and after a battle with some Guzzlords, Poipole returned. But it was revealed that off-screen, it had fully evolved into a Naganadel. We were lucky enough to get to see Naganadel battle in the exhibition match with Kukui, and it was even able to defeat his Lucario before going toe-to-toe with Tapu Koko. But after Ash successfully defeated Kukui, a wormhole once again opened up, and Naganadel knew it was needed back at its home, so he once again left Ash and Alola. Since then, we haven't seen Naganadel beyond just a few flashbacks. While many don't know if Nebby the Solgaleo counts as an Ash Pokemon, it did appear in Pikachu's vision sequence in Journeys, so I will add it here. Nebby started off as a Cosmog under the care of Ash and the rest of the Alola School gang. Then, after many episodes, it evolved into a Cosmoem. And then, after a long and pretty slow ritual, it evolved once again into Solgaleo. Solgaleo eventually squared off with and was even absorbed by Necrozma. However, thanks to some help from Ash and the Ultra Guardians, they were able to save the Alola region and even restore Necrozma. But after this confrontation, Solgaleo left Ash to protect the Alola region. However, in the final episode in the Sun and Moon series, Solgaleo did return to say farewell to Ash. Now we have Rowlet, who is Ash's last ever Pokemon he released. Now I gotta begin this entry by noting this is not Ash's original Rowlet from the Sun and Moon series. I mean, even Ash isn't dumb enough to release God upon the rest of the Pokemon world. Instead, this Rowlet was caught and then quickly released during the Sinnoh Festival in the Arceus Chronicles mini-arc. Ash, Go, and Dawn all caught the Hisui starters, however, they were all quickly released. And, well, that's that. That's every single Pokemon that Ash has ever released. I want to end this video by noting that Pokemon Ash traveled with, like Haunter or Latias, do not count here. And the same goes for any ride Pokemon Ash has ever used. So, please drop a big like on this video and tell me which release you hated the most. For me, it's obviously Greninja. Thanks, guys.